Hello everybody, you are listening to the Box Office Brawler. My name is Jackson. Today we're talking about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and this movie was unfortunately just a disappointing entry in the Ghostbusters series, and I have a lot to say about it. So before I do, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode. This movie, it's, wow, where do I start with this? It tries really hard to be funny. It tries so hard, and a lot of it comes down to, a lot of the failed attempts at this obviously come down to the writing. I don't blame the actors necessarily. I don't think delivery was the issue with this movie. It's just really juvenile, boring, just cringy teen humor. And it wasn't funny. Just the whole film was not funny to me. Even Paul Rudd wasn't funny, and that's when you know there's a problem if Paul Rudd isn't being funny. I like Paul Rudd. I think he's a obviously a humorous actor, but they just really cringy, awkward comedy in this movie, and it just leaves you uncomfortable and uneasy, and that's not an experience we want to have in the theater. And I don't think they were going for that, but this movie was the biggest downfall in this film. It was trying really hard to be funny, and it was not funny. But let's start off with this summarizing the story. Very basic story here. So we have the whole subject of the film revolves around this orb. It's this like ancient orb where literally like prehistoric ancient Ghostbusters, they were like pretty much magicians or like wizards or something, that were able to capture this frozen icy demon called Garaka in this orb like thousands or hundreds of years ago. And of course the orb resurfaces in the present time, and it ends up at Dan Aykroyd's antique shop. He's got his own antique shop. This was a fun part of the movie. He's got his own antique shop, and he analyzes it, and he determines that it's got paranormal attributes. And of course they kind of underestimate the power of this object, and Garaka gets unleashed upon the city and starts wreaking havoc in New York. And the movie, about halfway through, starts to build the team. We got the original Ghostbusting cast, Bill Murray and those guys. They come back, of course. We got some serious member berries in this movie, and they unite with the new cast as well as more Ghostbusters. We're introduced to a lot more new youthful Ghostbusters in this movie, and with all of these different cooks in the kitchen, it becomes a bit of a mess. And there are so many characters to follow, and each one is sort of living out their own little mini story, that it just gets jumbled, and it's a mess. It's all tied up, and it's hard to pay attention, and it's hard to be captivated by that many cooks in the kitchen. There's just too much to follow, and it leaves the audience confused. And unfortunately, I found myself just blanking out because I had a hard time being interested in any one of them, other than the original cast, of course. But if we're going to talk about positives, let's start with a couple positives. They did introduce some pretty fun, cute character designs for the new ghosts, and they were kind of intriguing, but they didn't do very much with them. The original cast were really good. They did not bastardize our cast in this. They did not bastardize Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, or Dan Aykroyd. They did a great job in this movie. They were really the only funny elements in this movie that were handled correctly, so that was definitely a plus. And Dan Aykroyd was the standout performance in this. He was really good in this film. Everybody would love him. Everybody does love him in this movie. The audience was very captivated by him. I could tell they were cheering, they were laughing at him, and they weren't really showing that kind of gusto for anyone else. As for the negatives, like I said, this movie mostly just not funny, very cringy. Writing is poor, and like I said, too many characters. It's a boring movie. It's boring because it's just hard to focus on any one story, plot, element, or character. There's just too much going on, uninteresting. But after that, I have to say, don't go see this movie. This movie's not worth your time. If you do, I mean, you are supporting a studio that respects its original properties, so that's good, but they're just dangling them in front of you. They're dangling them in front of you this whole movie, and they're desperately begging for your attention, your constant attention, by interjecting those characters in a lot of the scenes, which can, it's a good thing to see them utilized correctly, but you could tell it's just done so that your ass is in the seat. So just keep that in mind. I personally give this movie 40% for all the reasons I've listed today, and I don't recommend you see this movie. But If you liked the video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode, and I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.